Now, the other thing that I think is very important is this idea about interfacing with the world without interference. Now, depending on your persuasion, how you see the world, whether you think it's Mother Nature or a slightly higher order, someone's been working very hard on these things on the ends of our hands called fingers. And the more interference that we put into things, the more interference we put into the technology, our business processes, our services that we are creating means that people are less likely to want to come back and use them. It's why I think actually that the Blackberry Playbook, it looks very interesting, because it's enabling us to interface with the world without interference as enterprise. And I notice that there are a few of you here which are actually writing down a few notes on paper with pens. Paper is in fact a technology, and you are interfacing with it without any form of interference. And mobile communications, I think, and what we are creating and what we've seen already this morning is showing us there's a whole variety of different ways that whether it's sort of within inside organizations or whether it's organizations working with stakeholders or customers, understanding that interface is extremely important. And also this idea of simplicity. Rather than making a product or a service more complicated, we make it more powerful by making it simpler and taking all of that hidden intelligence, all that intelligence, and hiding it in a hidden back end. Because I'm not actually directing that in many ways, that becomes the complexity. So it's simplified. So BlackBerry 6, I think, is an extremely good example that Rick showed this morning about how simplicity can really enable the businesses that we want to create now and in the future. And one of the other things that I've noticed in my travels is watching how businesses do conduct and create business and profits in this network world. They understand that they need to open up their businesses to share and think about how they create win-win relationships with a whole variety of different partners. Because a bit like a thriving marketplace, thriving markets are conversations, the more that you can open up your marketplace to stimulate economic demand, to want other people, other players to come in and to make that a humming, thriving marketplace, you are essentially attracting more dollars, more revenue into that marketplace, which means that there are more dollars for everyone to go around. It's a different way of thinking about business. So network solutions, I argue, therefore offer new frameworks to create enterprise in this network world. There's a guy called Philip Sugai. He's a dean of a business school in Japan, and he wrote a book called The 6 Immutable Laws of Mobile. And one of the reasons he says that Japan is so extraordinarily successful within the sort of mobile commercial sort of ecosystem is not because actually the Japanese are a strange, weird species that live on this little island that have nothing to do with the rest of the world. But they understood that the ecosystem that they had to create was creating value over culture. To create real value within that environment, within that ecosystem, giving real value to the customer and really thinking about that means that actually they create real commercial value for their businesses. This means, therefore, that we have to think about the curation of content, the packaging of content, the filtering and sense-making of content. How do we create value for all of our stakeholders that we are trying to connect and communicate with, that we want to have commercial relationships with? And this isn't something which is about tomorrow. This is not in Blade Runner territory. This is something that all of you can be doing today, right here and right now. And data plays, therefore, an extremely important role in this story. It's what I call the philosophy of Swiss roll making. In case you don't know, in Europe we have a dessert called a Swiss roll. Looks a little bit like that. What you do is you take some nice chocolate sponge, and then you put cream, almonds, strawberries, raspberries, and you roll it up, and then you sprinkle some nice sort of icing on top. Very tasty. The ladies like it, I think. But the business equivalent of that is taking different data flows, different data streams, and rolling those and combining those together to create real value for your business. Data is going to play a really big role in your businesses in the future. And so therefore understanding that and trying to get your heads around that is extremely important, I would argue. So it doesn't matter whether it's location data, whether it's market data, research data, location-based data, social networking data, social network analytics. All of these different types of data flows that could be highly relevant to your business need to be understood. And I wrote a book last year called Social Media Marketing, which in fact was really looking at how data plays an important role for all of us in the pursuit of making successful enterprise in the network society. And we talked about social marketing intelligence, which is sort of the outputs of the Swiss roll making as being the black gold of the 21st century. Data is being the new oil. And what I urge all of you in this room is to understand that this also comes with a health warning. That, one, you need to really sort of think about what type of data your business needs. How do you make that dynamic? How do you make it rich and useful? But also you have issues around privacy. Who owns that data? How protected do you want your data to be? Or how open do you want your data to be shared? And these are things that you really need to be addressing and to be thinking about as every single enterprise in this room. Now, the other side of this is, in fact, the human kind of quotient, if you will. And I want to sort of put this in the context of a story about Pop Idol. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, Pop Idol, or as we have in the UK now, the X Factor, is a global phenomenon. In China, the lady that won the Chinese version of Pop Idol, millions and millions of people voted, and in fact the Chinese government wanted to stop it because they started to understand that people get this idea of voting and things happening. The lady that won it, her song was downloaded 1 billion times. In Ethiopia, a lady walked for 200 miles to be a contestant of Pop Idol. But the interesting thing that I want to share with you is that the second Pop Idol in the United States of America was the first time that texting was used as part of the voting process. That resulted in 7.5 million people texting in for that event. That was the biggest global texting audience at the time. And that was extraordinary because America didn't have a texting culture. I would have expected it to come from somewhere like maybe the UK or Seoul or Japan, but certainly not the States at that time. But the amazing statistic is that 30% of those people had never sent a text message before. How do you get 30% of 7.5 million people to change their behavior around something like technology, which is recognized extremely hard to do? The answer is that you engage them. It's about inviting people in and understanding the participatory nature of our species. Now, that said, I now want to share with you some sort of case histories from around the world, which in their own ways, I think, mobile has been a kind of core part of enabling that business to be more successful. But first I want to say this. The word custodian, which is up there on the screen, in English means to be a protector, an enabler, to be a guardian, to offer stewardship for people. And what I think that the networked society, the network world enables us to do in terms of thinking back to reframing what we do is how we act as businesses in this world is extremely important.